Right, so this is stage one, the autolyse. So what I'm going to do is put in, I've got some strong flour here. Now normally for the easiest one to do is all strong, the strongest flour you can get, like Canadian strong flour. I've got 350 odd grams of that. So I've got some other flours to try and make it up because I need 460. That's what I'll do. So I'm just going to do white. So this is another one. 4, 5. 460. A little bit off. I'm going to add to this, get that back to 0, and add 355 grams of water. Too much, 359, but that's all right. If I was being a fuss pot, I'd probably take out 5 grams of that and then put it in later. Yeah, why not? So there you go, 355 grams of water, 460 of flour. Now I'm going to mix this up and make sure that all of the flour is wet. So I don't want any dry bits. It doesn't take long. Now generally, so different flours will take on different amounts of water. So generally the stronger the flour, the more water it will take on. So when you're making a really strong, like a really high hydration sourdough, the strong Canadian and American flours, really high protein, that's how come you can get 80, 85 percent hydration. You wouldn't get that with like British flour or normal plain flour. So then as a general rule of what I've got for making the size of loaf that I tend to make, I'm going for 460 grams of flour, and that can be in different combinations. So I could use some wholemeal, it's good to put a bit of wholemeal flour in, some rye flour, malted flour. I can do mixes of all of the different ones, and I've got a crazy big note on the wall that shows you where I'm recording all the different ratios of water, but I generally start with 355, 350, something like that, to 460. Then I will be able to look at it later and add more water if I need to. Because of what the autolyse does is it starts to develop the gluten before we do a mix. So it means we have to knead it less, and we get a much more elastic, extensible dough, which is good for sourdough, for like getting nice big open crumbs. Right, here we go, no more dry bits. So that's right, that can sit. I'm going to cover that, let that sit for a few hours before I add the leaven. Just before I put this away, what I want to show you is the difference in the autolyse. So if you pull this up, you can see it's just breaking apart. And it's not smooth at all. So I'll just show you what the difference is in a few hours when we come back to this same dough after doing nothing else to it, what the difference the autolyse has made. Okay, so this has been 4 or 5 hours, I think. 4 hours, 3, 4 hours. I can't remember. Anyway, but so you can see how the change. Now it's like really elastic. Not at all like it was before. So really boingy, extensible. Now what I've got here is 90 grams of the fed starter, the levain. Pop that in on the top. I fed that, I think, about 6 hours ago, so it's a bit late. I think I'd like to use it like, I guess 4 hours or something after a feed, but it doesn't matter that much. So there we go, I'm just gonna put some water on my hands. And what I'm going to do is just pull the side of this on, start to incorporate it, pull the side up. This is called the stretch and fold. Boop, boop, boop. I'm going to do this, reaching under there, pull it up, tilt it so you can see. Reach under the bottom, put it up a bit, and then put it on the top, spin it round, pull it up, stick it on. So this is like, I guess in place of kneading, kind of low impact, but just to mix the starter in with the water-based flour and water. I can feel this is quite strong and keeping its shape really well. So I could add a bit more water to this. I think I'll just a little drop. What extra water does, so the kind of like the wetter the dough to a certain extent, the wetter the dough is, the easier it is to get the nice big holes in the open crumb that you're after. Might have overdone that a little bit. Let's see, so the measurements that I gave you for 460 of flour to 355 of water, then with another, put in about another 7 or 8 grams of water there with that splosh. That's going to give us a loaf at the end, which will be 80% hydration, because the starter is at 100%, because that's mixed same amounts of flour and water. And I won't do this for the whole thing. I just tilt it against you and you see what I'm doing. Put it up, stick it on the bottom. I won't do a whole 5-minute video of this, so I'll pause it here. So this now is, after about 7 minutes now, it's really well mixed in now. Nice and elastic. I wet my hands every time I'm going to start touching the dough, otherwise it just gets completely stuck. Now this is super wet. I'm going to leave it for 30 minutes now, and then I'm going to come back and add the salt. Right, so I left it half an hour. Now I'm going to put some salt in. I've got 10.5 grams of salt. just going to wet my hands before I mix it in. Take this in over the top, sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. I start to mix it in. And just do the same stretch and fold again. And the salt, not immediately, but the salt, once it's incorporated, will give the dough a bit more strength. So one of the reasons that I leave it a little bit, leave it half an hour before I'm adding the salt, is so that I can see how the dough is forming up, how the gluten's developing. So then that gives me another point. Like when this is done, this is like another point where I could add some more water. This one doesn't need it though. But like I was saying earlier, you've got different flours that will all take on different amounts of water. So once the ortolese bit is done, I don't know if I'm saying that right, I've only read it. You've got a couple of points here where you can check to see, you can feel the dough and see if it needs more water. Because you can add more water, but you can't really add more flour. Or you can't easily add more flour to bring it back. So it's better to start with less water and then add more at the different points. So at the end of after the ortolese, if it's too stiff then, or when you add the leaven, or now. That's not to say you can't add water later on. You could. So what I'm looking for here is it's starting to like toughen up a bit now, so I can actually pull it right up. And one of the things that I'm looking for is like is a nice shine. Don't know if you can see that. You can see it's kind of getting shiny. And when the salt is properly dissolved and incorporated, it will go back to, well, not back to, it will take on that sort of universal look. You see, it's like a bit, how can I explain that? It's not so silky right now. But once in about 5 or 6 minutes of doing this, then it should look nice and silky and shiny. So back in a mo. So next thing I want to show you is a different way of mixing. So this is kind of nice and shiny now. I've got this thing, a squirter. You can get them for like a couple of quid in Tesco or garden centre or whatever. This just puts a bit of water on my hand so it's not going to stick. I'm just going to do this a few times so that I can pour it out. I'm also going to squirt a bit of water on the work surface. So, what we're going to do is, so pull up from the side and then dump it on. Again, this is another thing that's not, I guess, strictly necessary to develop the gluten, because the stretch and fold does exactly the same thing. I like to do this. I like to play with the dough and feel it. Also, I feel like when they do this, the big stretch. See how we've got these lines here? As I start to do it, and to do it quicker, we want to see them start to disappear. Now it's more shiny. So this is telling me that I've done it enough. Everything is nice and mixed. Just try and do it slowly. Nice. Now I'm going to put it back in the bowl. Leave it for another half hour. Remembering to cover it. Keep the moisture in. Right, next I'm going to do some things to put some strength into the dough. It's been sat there for half hour or so, so I'm gonna, let's see what I should do. Squirt on that. So I'm gonna do a thing kind of like the final shaping that we do. Just to kind of build up like layers, like scaffolding inside. Oh. Then pop it back for another half hour or so. So another thing we're going to do to put some strength, like scaffolding into the dough. Here, getting nice and shiny now. I'm going to take it out. Just going to spread it out. I'm going to take this end, fold it in, take this one, fold it onto there. Flap it up. Next, I'm going to pop it into a greased loaf tin. So this is more stuff to build up strength in the dough. See, now it's kind of taking the shape of the container. I'm going to pop some of these big bubbles that we got. So they'll just make like big holes in the bread if we leave them to stay. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the sides. I'll spray my hands again. They're nice and wet. I'm going to pick up at the side here. So and flop that bit underneath. Same again this side. Pick it up. flop. And then this one. Again, so just like creating layers in the dough, which develops the dough, makes it strong. Some big bubbles I can just pop. And then I'll leave that again for another half an hour, 40 minutes, hour. Just basically until it's taken up the container again. Right, so final bit now. Here's the bread. So I've done that folding thing 3 times, I think. So you do it 3 or 4 times to build up the strength in the dough. Now I'm going to get it from this one to the proving basket. I'm going to put in some gluten-free flour into here. This is because gluten-free flour's got loads of rice flour in it, which is really super absorbent, so it's not going to stick to the banneton. Like, you don't need the cloth thing. You could use a tea towel, or you could just put it straight into the banneton. Or if you don't have one, you can put it in a bowl, or like the cardboard things that vegetables come in. Would work just as well. Okay, that's prepped. So I've got a fair amount of flour in that. Put this to one side. Then I've got some normal flour. So I'm going to chuck some of this down here. And we're going to do the shaping. I'm also going to put like a wee bit on there so that this can roll out easier. Right, so for the final shape, I'm going to put a little bit of flour underneath it, not loads, because I do want to keep it kind of wet. So I'm going to pull out one side, this side, put it in the middle, do the same this side, and then I'm going to roll this up. Tuck these bits under. So what we're looking to do in that bit is create a tauter surface around here. Sprinkle a little bit of flour on. Now this go into the basket. I'm also going to do like a little bit of stitching. Again, right, so what that's doing is like pulling the outside skin of it nice and taut. So then that's hopefully when we turn it out, that's going to keep the shape. When we cut the score in it, then that bit will keep together, and then we get the nice oven spring. So I'm going to pop the shower cap back on the top. I'm going to put this in the fridge overnight, and then I'll bake it in the morning. Right, so now it's baking time. I've got all my stuff here. I've got the bread. I've got some semolina. I've got a razor blade here. I've got this special scoring knife that I got free with a thing. But razor blade is what I generally use. I got this the other day, so I might use that today. I've heated up a Dutch oven, so it's really super hot. I've got the oven on the highest setting. It's been in there good 30 minutes or something, so that it's super hot. Get the hat off the bread. So the bread hasn't really changed much in terms of like how much it's risen, but it's been in the fridge a good 12 hours. It's got a little bit of a wobble to it, which is grand. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some semolina on it. So the semolina stops this, because it's quite wet, stops it sticking to the Dutch oven that I'm going to put it in. Sprinkle, sprinkle. There we go. So I'm going to get the oven out, pop it into it, and then put it back in the oven. So I'm going to support this as I take it out, pop it in, there it is, get my knife, going to score it quite deep, like a centimetre or so, all the way around. Oh, missed a bit. Then lid back on and into the oven. So I'm going to give that 15 minutes on high setting, and then I'm going to turn it down to gas 7, which is about 200, I think, 200 Celsius. 200. So now the bread had 15 minutes at highest temperature we had, and then down to 7 for 20 minutes. Usually that's enough for this size loaf. It's okay. Could cook that a bit more if I wanted. It's got these splits here. This is because I didn't cut the score deep enough. If I'd have cut the score a bit deeper, we'd have had more. You see this ear thing? We'd have more of that on here. But I was using that funny little knife that I wasn't used to.